No, you no. That seems good. Gotcha.
It looks like I'm good.
This moment before our fingers close is like the tick, tick, tick at the top of a roller coaster. Today's gonna be a big day. Full exhale. Full inhale through the nose. Bring awareness to your heart. Hold it. Full exhale through the nose. Full inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Deep inhale through the mouth. Full exhale through the mouth. Take a pause. Just remember that every action we are choosing, and below every action is the stillness. On a moment-to-moment basis, may we return back to the stillness, to check ourselves, to observe ourselves, to improve ourselves, to learn from our experiences in the moment. May the stillness in this void be our constant companion. Welcome into a new day. They call it March 16th. I switched sequences with proposed agenda. I'm talking about mission first to going at HQ second. Josie, just to create a clear off-ramp for you if you'd like to. We do have a lot of important HQ stuff to talk about, so let's make sure we reserve some bandwidth for that. I feel like the best way to start us off would be to have, for me to restate an integration of where we're at right now, and both to recrystallize it for our field as well as to share that with Josie, and then get Josie's direct integration thoughts, inquiries, and move through that threshold together, and then move into our mission-based agenda for the day.
Have you shared this anywhere? I'd love to take a look at it.
There's a master plan document, which I believe is in Slack. I've been using it every day to develop our agendas. I can reshare it in Slack general. If people are interested in really having a major role in the agenda, I would recommend that you come a couple minutes early and co-create it so that we can have something crystallized more so in the front end. I'm just dropping the link in general right now. Okay. So I'm just going to provide, you mind setting that door for us, please? Thank you. So assessment of our circumstances and conditions. We have, for a multiplicity of reasons, decided to dedicate our energy and our resource to deeply concerned about this.
I'm still holding it.
Okay, all right. We have just all of our electronics for the whole.
The coin of cups on the table has been made, and I'm just pulling something out.
Okay. So we've determined to direct our resources, which are primary resources for manpower, in the direction of pandemic mitigation and supporting people who are going through this deeply challenging process, which is all of humanity. Those that aren't touched by it are likely soon to be touched by it, as the global numbers around the world are increasing and the coronavirus is in basically every country. So what that looks like for us, Josie, is beginning to produce content on a daily basis on the topic, building a text message listserv at keyword rise above. So people can text rise above to 31996 and then receive a series of videos and invitations to live videos on a daily basis as we bring our leadership forward by way of educational content, awareness of things that other people might not have access to as far as various situations, supporting people in being prepared the best we can, supporting people in sanitation practices and encouraging that on a daily basis, as well as providing information around emotional resilience, psychological resilience, relationships, communication, healing, trauma, systems collapse, systems transformation, and just integrating basically all of the codes of One Nation contextualized by this pandemic. So we've set up a studio in our garage, which we're now calling Studio One, to produce this content on a regular basis. And I'm currently tracking at least 4 segments that I intend to produce today, which will happen live. And then those live elements will also produce artifacts. We have Andrew on promotion to be able to help connect us to various different streams of exposure and existing channels and networks. We've got Brother Robert on intelligence for now. We've got Benjamin and myself holding down kind of co-host steward roles, an invitation for Sophia or others to step into that. So it's not exclusive by any means. I think we just want to feel what feels natural. We've got Brother Jonas, who's going to be real-time VJing, which is going to be literally the professional expression of his life path thus far, which everything in his life has been leading up to. And we intend to do this every day for the next several weeks to produce the most useful and supportive content as we possibly can. And as that pertains to the Academy, I would like to circle back around and hit that as one of our last bullet points for the mission element of the agenda, so we can talk about that. But that's just our high level overview on our status and the transformations we've been undergoing here at HQ. And the last 72 hours have been a deep sprint to physically prepare for our own resilience, as well as to imagine a rebirth of our vision of what we thought we'd be doing this month contextualized by our global and local conditions.
Okay. Let me just reflect back, make sure I understand what you're saying. It sounds like you are saying that y'all are mobilizing your resources towards producing media content that is in support of helping people with hygiene and preparedness in the face and the context of this pandemic. And I'm curious how that pertains to the work. Well, let me just check, like, am I accurate in that?
Yeah, it was a fairly oversimplification, but essentially, yeah, we're also looking to using this opportunity to explore systems collapse and systems change, and helping people with some sense making to the best of our ability, while also exploring systems transformation and how we can utilize this as a moment in time to start to think about what happens next.
Okay. And everyone else already knows this. Am I correct? That, like, everyone there in the field has already been debriefed on that? I don't want to just...
Yeah, we've been in deep integrations for the last 3 days.
Okay. Would this be a good time to offer some questions?
Yeah, I think our goal is to get coherent in the field.
Okay. So it sounds to me like there is a move to take up sense-making leadership in the face of something that people are really struggling to make sense of. And I understand that makes sense to me. I'm curious about how that how that links to or pertains to the mission statement of either One Nation campaign, like One Life campaign, and or also the work of establishing a new political party.
Yeah, so I'd love to speak directly. For us, politics is about, or for me, I'll speak for myself, politics is about leadership and reality creation. And we're just simply deeming that this is the highest leverage expression of leadership at this moment in time that we can bring forward. And that it fully integrates with our intent to provide leadership at the municipal level, at the state level, at the national level. And we just seem to see that this is the most urgent and relevant expression of leadership that we can bring forward. It also fully integrates in our mission and desire to activate our media capacities substantially and prolifically, and so context of that. And it also creates a context for us to potentially substantially increase our reach as we generate content that is extremely relevant for a very large amount of people, which could build things like SMS communication channels, YouTube subscribers, email list augmentation that then allows us to build trust with people at this moment in time where they're really looking for support, and then continue to provide leadership thereafter.
Essentially, systems change is becoming omni-relevant.
That's exactly right. Systems change just became, and we want to communicate through that access point.
I understand. I'm just writing an article here to that same effect. I think hearing you say that, it sounds like you are, maybe you plural are on a train of making use of this moment as an opportunity for new authorities of sense making, for, like, you know, developing a new media presence that offers pertinent and important information with respect to this emergent pandemic piece. A question that comes in for me is, does that require a full siphoning of resources to that effect, or is there still opening? may I contextualize things just briefly? So, so I'm from New York City, and I had a very direct experience of September 11th. And one of the things that I have taken away from that, and there are a lot of lessons that came out of that, but one of them was the need for there to be certain aspects of continuity that link us to something that we continue to live in relationship with. So I just, when I hear you talking about, like, you said systems collapse and you said systems transformation. And I guess I want to say that, well, that having continuity, particularly around things that people have agreed to, like have exchanged value for, that to me seems important, to have the continuity of that, and developing a larger like meaning making apparatus. Like they don't feel different, but they do feel important to balance. So I guess I'm preparing myself for a sense that you're like kind of in alignment with what you emailed last night, a sense that the academy then and then that work falls maybe like a distant second behind the work of developing media. And I guess I'm not sure if that's what you're going to say, but given what I read last night, it seems likely.
Yeah, so I guess now's the most natural time to bring the academy element in. For us, there's a part of that element that's about bandwidth, but there's also a part of that element that's about naturalness. And based upon what we're looking at with LA commencing its lockdown process last night, and likely many or all cities to instigate that self-sovereignly in the next couple of days, and potential full mandatory national lockdown, that the entire context of society is going to transform likely exponentially per day over the next several days. So there's some things that would just feel completely unnatural to just kind of go through the motions. And we aren't going to know what the real conditions are by Wednesday night until Wednesday afternoon. And so that feels like the most appropriate time to envision what type of experience to create for our fellows. And then as far as next week goes, none of us have a clue of what life is going to look like 10 days from now. And so 9.5 days from now feels like the appropriate amount of time to determine what type of opportunity to create for our fellows. And I feel like this real life situation invites people into leadership in the world in a particular way. And I want to be able to invite them into that leadership and honor that value exchange by producing something very likely substantially more valuable than they might have imagined for that initial exchange of value. And they have special access to us and special access to an experience that we're going to curate for them throughout this process. And of course, we can integrate principles of all-win leadership all throughout it. But it feels very true to me that we're suspending the framework so that we can be emergent and reactive to the moment.
And
Right. So go ahead, Sophia.
I actually wonder if we can frame it in a way where we're not suspending the framework. Like, I really feel like the decisions that I'm making right now are directly being impacted by what we taught in Module 2. This is how to make all-win choices. And I just feel like if I really sink into what's the best leadership that we can bring to this group, and really just feeling into our commitment to these people to support them in their leadership, and that this is the time when leadership is so important. And I just think we really have an opportunity here. I'm not thinking of it through so much through the lens of even loss of like, oh, we've lost some time or we don't have the bandwidth, but actually just like, if we really feel into what would feel natural and what's like gripped to our current context, it feels like to open up Module 2 to really like be in an experience with people to better understand what they need. And I'm not saying open up to a dialogue. I actually think that we should come together, get coherent on the front end, and figure out what kind of structure we want to hold for that session. But my sense is that to hang out in module 2 for one additional week is actually where it feels like we're still at.
So what's most relevant right now is what email we're going to send. So just and we also have a tremendous amount of other elements to bring forward in this moment. So that's really where we want to get to, is what that email is going to say. And when I say suspend the framework, I'm not at all saying the framework of content conceptually. I'm just saying the module 1 is going to be about this. Module 2 is going to be about this. Module 3 is going to be about this. Like at that level of the framework, I don't want to try and contrive what feels most relevant into whatever we said they would be able to experience, or whatever skill they were expecting to develop in that particular module. If it all maps in a way that feels natural and authentic, that would be amazing. And I would love to do that. But I also want to create the space for us to go grosser or micro or more personal based upon how the conditions unfold.
I think I want to say back, I heard you say something about like a question of bandwidth and relevance. And I guess what I want to say here is that like in terms of how Josie, am in a relationship to the field and in my leadership, I want to say that it sounds like there's another academy conversation around like staying with module 2 or something. We can lean into that, but I want to say that this feels like, to my view, this is the most important work that I feel in a position to offer. I don't know shit about media. I don't do anything with it. And where it comes to leadership, where it comes to curriculum development, where it comes to teaching, where it comes to holding space, I feel like there's an invitation in the field for me to use my bandwidth, which would not be well suited for a media sense making experience with y'all, because I'm over here in a mountain alone with a shit ton of bandwidth and a lot of content and a lot of passion and a lot of my capacities are directly in alignment with this. And I'm not saying I want to take it on myself at all, but I'm saying that there's a lot more lifting that I can do that I think would make smaller the bandwidth required for y'all to maintain something that people have already communicated is a value. And I think that we all feel is intimately a value right now. And I'm wondering if there's a way of, rather than, like I said in the audio message, if there's a way of both offering the content, not necessarily exactly as planned with respect to the order, but continuing to hold that space of leadership as a council, as it would, more importantly than ever, that consistency matters, and then offer supplementary pieces with respect to how to be in sense making more broadly. I think it's, yeah. So I want to offer my bandwidth there for that.
Received. Yeah, I'm not sure what the best application of that bandwidth is. I think we still need to think deeper, and it doesn't feel true for me to say, okay, great, let's just kind of go along with it and you bring that bandwidth forward. Like I'm still in a real like exploration process on what I really think this wants to be and what experience I think is going to be best. I'm not sure how much information you're tracking, Josie, or the depth of severity and the doubling effect and exponential impacts that you're tracking. But I just think that this conversation can be a complete moot point 3 days from now, as people are on mandatory federal lockdown and really like focused on trying to take care of themselves in a more kind of root chakra kind of way.
Yeah, I've been in lockdown. I am up to date with information. I am aware of both the severity of predictions, and I'm not obfuscating that by saying that people are going to have more time than ever at home, wanting to know what they can do, wanting to step into their leadership, and hoping that something that is important to them continues with consistency in my world. And I think that we want to pull as few rugs as possible right now, because everything, like things are getting pulled. Like it's true. I'm not trying to minimize the reality of the situation that we're facing, but I think there's a powerful way, particularly with leaders of leaders, for us to hold, like you're talking about that pocket of sanity. We have to ground that more than ever. This is the moment for us to be in leadership that doesn't infect people with the panic they're already swimming in. This is how to create a greater sense, like you were to your point before. And I don't want to pull, I feel strongly about not pulling this rug.
So what I'm tracking is,
I hear you, Josie.
did you and her integrate after the Ally conversation stuff? Because that's the next level of integration, and why I'm just like not a total yes to her taking that further dev role.
I think we can just keep sensing by what matters to all of us, right? Like this is actually the moment in time to continue grounding module 2 by just continuing to hear Josie. I hear that what matters to you is, I guess in my words, is that this is the time to lead leaders, and that you have the bandwidth and the capacity to do what you can do. You've got space, and I get it. People are going to be in their homes and they do need consistency. And I feel like I want to take this academy course incredibly seriously. And I think we are, and I don't feel, that's what I'm wanting to speak into, is I don't feel like this is us negating the importance of that. I feel like we actually have an opportunity to come together in a new way and just get a little bit creative. And I think that in our creativity, we'll be able to generate something that is so much better gripped to the current moment and the current context than if we were to just create the next module and just kind of deliver that with maybe a little bit of a sprinkling around current or whatever. I think this is actually something that new is going to rebirth here from what matters to each one of us.
Yeah.
And I think that module 2 is so important. It's so essential that I actually think it would do well for everyone. I think it would be in the best service of all if we were to kind of hang out there a little bit longer and really go through more of the embodiment and an integration around what does it really mean to be making all-win choices right now.
And
I
as well,
I want to offer like that we can also ask them. I think there's a way that we can democratically, from the collective wisdom that we're aiming to steward here, ask for their input on that and get a better sense of the field.
Yes, and doing stuff like that creates real communication feedback cycles and deeper integration of data, and then interpreting that data, and then basing that data interpretation based upon how educated people are about the situation. So I just want to name like the body of work that type of polling process might generate. And we might generate a set of data about the topic that actually becomes irrelevant 48 hours later. So I just want to name that as a potential element. And I agree with Sophia. I think that she's saying what I'm saying, which is that there is an element of a rebirth on the table while we have the consistency of time infrastructure. And I don't think people are going to feel like the rug is pulled out from underneath them. I'm definitely open to a rewording of the email that feels like there's actually more of a sense of consistency represented than the draft that I produced. But I don't think that's going to materially impact the vision that I had for how we're going to actually deal with this on a week-by-week basis based upon the current global and national circumstances. But I do feel like there could be a slight modification of the email that leaves that consistency in place. Also, to your point around module 2, hanging out in module 2, the entire course is module 2. So it's not about hanging out in module 2. It's about consistently returning to all-win choices, which is the totality of the course, of which module 2 just landed that element of the fractal. So we get to move on from module 2 and continually to recontextualize and look at all-win leadership and all-win choices from different lenses, from the know yourself lens, from the know each other lens, from the know the world lens, from the generative experimentation of running experiments lens. And so that'll keep happening throughout the process. But what I'm most inspired by, singly most important inspired by, is what does leadership look like for you at this moment in time? And I want to create maximum space and minimize content and theory to be able to support people and actually realizing that they have a role of leadership right now in their families, in their communities, in their online communities, et cetera. help them to articulate how they're showing up relative to this as an expression of leadership and reality creation, and then help them to integrate that element, and then help to empower them around how to best be in that expression of leadership. So it's identification of unique expression of leadership, UEL, and then empowerment relative to their UEL. That from an all-in lens. To me, that is just like, and then if we can help people move from being receivers of this situation to co-creators with it, and we can help them make that transformation totally grip to this moment, I would feel so inspired by how we would choose to show up in that regard.
I could cry. That's how deeply that just landed inside of my body. And I also think that within the next few hours, we could make that post. I mean, that could honestly help to frame an outline for the curriculum. But I think that even creating a post in the group that asks some of these questions and kind of gets people thinking about this in replacement of the reading material, so that this week is just in the way that we might break the pattern. It's less like read on your own and prepare for something that we are going to talk about on Wednesday, and actually like integrate the experiences that you're having right now, reflect on what's happening for you, and come to the meeting prepared to continue to integrate this.
An aspect of this that could create consistency is if we now go back and forth where we have 1 week of content and then 1 week of integration. That way it's setting a new pattern.
I'm not okay right now in anticipating what's going to happen. We really this is going to be exponential for the next couple of weeks, and I just want to create the space for us to grip our experience with them to the circumstances.
Yeah. And okay, so to that point, I want to say that I'm completely in alignment with helping people step into the actuality of their leadership. That what I'm saying is that I don't see it as mutually exclusive. I don't see it as a replacement of content. I see it as something additional. And I think just yesterday, Griffith hosted a dialogue that 6 people showed up for and got to be in communication around these principles. And I think that this is a time to trust the self-organizing of people, to lean into the wisdom of the collective here that wants to be offering its gifts. And like you're saying, empowering people to their leadership. Absolutely. I think they're ready to do that. They have more time than ever to do it, and they have more of an urgency to do it. I think I just need to speak to what I'm getting and I could be totally bullshit and everything could be, but I just want to say that I notice, Christopher, that there's this wisdom of being in relationship with what exactly is emerging and not predicting too far ahead. And I can't help but also feel like there's I'm present to a little bit of the blood on the teeth of panic here. It feels to me like there's sometimes when people when crisis mode happens, it can turn on some really deep capacities in people that feel really good. And I understand that. And I also just want to say that I think this is where the grounding piece is absolutely necessary. I know that these are times that could inspire tremendous fear, and that could have people running wild and wanting to cancel all their plans. And I think it's important to hold a soft grip of the things that we have in the future planned. But I also don't think it's the time to throw off all the ropes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you, Josie, and I think you just worded that really beautifully. I think that was tremendously wise of you to name that and bring that in. And my sense is that this is an integration, right? We really are weaving our leadership into this to best sense what's best for everyone. And I just kind of got a reframe on what would have been module 3, know yourself, in the context now of actually knowing yourself as a leader in the context that you're in today. And
that's what I wrote.
Yeah. And I look, yeah. And my sense is that we're not actually polarizing. We don't need to be I think we could all be saying the same thing. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Josie, what matters to you matters to me, and what matters to Christopher matters to me. And it might just be that we want to create the space actually for each of us to maybe get some ideas out on paper and come to a collaboration session well prepared to have an effective conversation about this week's content. And maybe prior to that, we do redraft the email, because I also agree that I wasn't, I read the email and just felt like while the essence of it was kind of right, the language of it felt like it was off. But that's just an edit and a rewrite and maybe a different voice. So I just feel like let's stay in this. I feel like we're on for module 3. We're on for Wednesday. This is an opportune time to lead the people who have looked to us directly for leadership right now. They're watching, they're ready. They're going to show up on Wednesday to see what we have to say. And so let's not overlook the value of that. And let's come to that meeting well prepared with something really good to say, so that we can empower them as leaders to go out there in the world on their own. And I think that the questions that you articulated there, Christopher, create an incredible framework. And I actually don't feel like we're so far off. Let's get out of our minds that this is going to, take a while, or like, I actually think that we can create something very valuable in a effortless and short amount of time.
Yeah. When leaders panic, people panic. We need to hold the most grounded, sane, present approach that we can. And I will, and I don't, I know that I've been coming online with like greater expressions of leadership and sort of like force in the field. And I just want to reiterate that I feel really strongly about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a great opportunity.
Next steps.
In relationship to the academy.
Someone needs to redraft an email that is simultaneously a copy to be emailed, as well as a crystallization of our position as expressed by an email. I'm happy to take a second pass at it based on this conversation. I'm also happy to pass this off for somebody else to either do a rewrite or do an edit.
Robert and I rewrote it last night. I think maybe you saw that.
I did not see a rewrite email. I saw a module 3 doc.
No, yeah, we did that. Yeah. So yeah. And I'm not like now the crystallizing. I want to hear from other people. I want to hear from other people in the field.
I just really need to balance with like we have a whole, we didn't allocate the time, and I'll take responsibility in this active leadership that I think we needed a meeting an hour ago or some other time. Despite that's very challenging to say, considering the fact that we've had so many moving pieces, people in and out of the house, and deep transformational processes, and preparing for physical resilience. So I'm just slightly disempowered, feeling like, as a leader, I should have created the space for the 4 of us prior to this moment in time, because this doesn't feel like the most appropriate use of the morning meeting. While B, realizing that this is the moment that's emerging, and maybe I should have just helped people anticipate they were going to be in a multi-hour process. But I'm just feeling a sense of disempowerment around how to meet this effectively, how to also respect everyone else's time and prepare them for actions that they are, gearing up to prepare. And I want to name how long a open discussion process could progress. So I'm just concerned about those things, and I'm reflecting upon my leadership in all of this.
What I would love to say, Jesse, is I didn't see the email that I didn't know that you and Robert had redrafted anything, and I would like to see that. I also would. Is this okay?
It's
Great.
on the same Google Doc.
Gotcha.
Put in yes.
Great. I'd like to take a look at that, and then maybe we can use the Slack thread to integrate those comments from the revised email, and make a priority to sync up from there. And Josie, I want to ask how you're doing right now.
Yeah, I thank you for asking. I feel great. I feel like I'm in relationship to the things that I hold most precious. I have a desire to hear, I heard Christopher say like, this was a long meeting, feeling disempowered in his leadership right now, that there's a lot going on. There are a lot of pieces that it sounds like y'all need to ground with respect to your physical resilience. And I understand that and I want to respect that. And I want to say also that in practicing the kind of leadership that we're aiming to teach, I feel like it's important to hear from the field, get a sense of what people who are there, who are giving their lives to this cause right now, feel like is the right thing to do. I know, like, I want to hear Benjamin, I want to hear Robert, I want to hear like Jonas. There are a bunch of people there, and it doesn't have to be in this context right now. But I think that we need to be in relationship to the collective in a way that empowers them as voices of their own well-being and their own good, and not to judge too much. Well, they may have, like, of course they're differential, like there are different levels of information that people have access to or that they're looking for. And I feel like the call right now is to trust the people, and the people become trustworthy that way, to quote, Adrienne Maree Brown there. So I guess I'm imagining, Christopher, that you feel like you're holding so much right now. And I want to express, I feel compassion for what must feel like is such an immense holding. And I just want to invite you to really hear where I'm offering to step in and hold some of the pieces that may be too much to hold right now, and to trust my leadership, which is, to the best of my abilities, the leadership of the collective.
I really appreciate your invitation to step forward and bring your leadership. I felt that when I saw your Module 3 write-up. I feel that personally disempowered, because I feel like I could have stepped in earlier to provide an all-in solution. And I was just kind of increasingly wondering why it wasn't happening. And then I realized it's because I didn't bring it forward.
Something to do with it.
Yeah. I feel like it's pretty simple to me that given how rapidly things have shifted and are continuing to shift, that it would feel completely inauthentic to just move along like nothing is happening and just do the module as anticipated. I think we're all aligned that doing a module grip to the current context and step out of the structure that we've publicly said is understandable and responsible and meets the reality well. And then I would love to continue on with the course the following week as we had it scheduled. And I acknowledge that there's no way of knowing for certain what will be happening next week. And so I think if we're just all coherent that we want to bring the curriculum forward when it is appropriate, and we will co-sense when it is appropriate, then we can just move forward, do this week, and then continue to evaluate and move forward as though we're bringing Module 3 online next week. But allow it to self-organize.
Okay. Yeah, I guess one thing I just want to make really clear, maybe I didn't drive this home, is that I'm not advocating for continuing the module without reference to what's happening in any way. What I was referring to is a way of integrating, like, for example, in a know yourself context, it's like, how do I respond to fear? What's my relationship to collective panic? Am I resilient? And like these are directly pertinent to the events that are happening. And there's no part of me that's advocating or like doesn't even see an ounce of sense in trying to plod on ahead without, like, not in relationship to reality. I just want to be clear. I'm seeing them as deeply integrable and importantly so.
I guess what I'm just trying to say is that there's content that isn't fully gripped to a moment of intense paradigm shift, that, like, if we were to try and do know yourself in the context of responding to the crisis, I don't know that we as a team would bring forward all the aspects of the curriculum that we would if we were bringing it forward in a different context. And I think there's value for the students that we wouldn't necessarily be creating if we stayed tried to merge these things artificially, or not artificially, but in a contrivant way. Because there's plenty of not disaster relief, know yourself stuff that we probably wouldn't get to, and then they wouldn't be equipped with those things. So I think the spaciousness actually brings more affordances with how we approach the material when we get to it.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm ready to like start putting down the conversation. I understand that there are other things that happen. I do want to say that all structure is a contrivance. So I don't have like a negative relationship with the notion of contriving integration, but I want to allow, you know, my voice to quiet here in favor of whatever is productive and needs to happen next. And I'm glad to feel like we're all in relationship to the seriousness of what's happening, and that we are standing as leaders in helping guide what happens next.
Absolutely.
Do you have a clear set of next steps for the academy?
Read the email that was drafted, make some comments. I think we can continue to sense onto Slack whether that email needs to be revised. I think we want to get really clear on how we articulate it. And
Yeah.
I think that,
like,
so this email here, another draft wasn't written. It was just, my draft was just edited, correct?
yes.
Okay. I feel like we should just give this a quick skim together and see if we can all sign off on it and have not another communication cycle. You guys down with that? I'm just gonna give it a quick read.
Yeah.
Subject line: Coronavirus All-Win Leadership Academy update. These are unprecedented times. In many ways, each day further enunciates how we are in unprecedented territory for one human family and the systems of civilization we have relied on. If you are in this course, you are likely well aware of the insufficiency of our inherited systems for dealing with the immensity of the challenges of today and tomorrow. We stand poised, the new paradigm leaders, to shift those systems from within and without to ensure that our civilization undergoes the critical redesign it needs to be in good relationship with historically unrecognized and emergent realities. While our facilitator team has been tending to our own personal preparations and family affairs, we've been considering how to best support our all-in leadership cohort. We have concluded the best way to move forward is to weave presently unfolding circumstances into course content and practice. COVID-19 offers a rare opportunity to recognize our very real interconnectedness and our reliance on the well-being of every other around us. That person, every other person around us. It also provides this course with active training grounds for our leadership, and it is one we aim to make good use of in service of you and all beings. We are taking a pause this week on accountability partner calls and supplementary reading as we sort our internal external affairs, as we imagine you may also be doing. We will reactivate partner calls and reading. I would de-emphasize reactivate reading. That feels like a potential area where we might just be like videos or contemplation or dialogue. So I would suggest
I would just say supplementary materials.
Supplementary materials, great. I feel better about that. We look forward to being together on Wednesday to integrate how this experience has affected you, your leadership, and our community. We encourage you to bring your all-in leadership forward now, more now than ever before. Class will be in session Wednesday night, barring extreme circumstances. We'll continue to confirm via email and to the right, guys. Together we socially isolate. I'm a complete hell yes to that. Yeah, I think our last conversation was probably a good amount of it was probably could have been reduced if we'd all read that together sooner. So I'm a yes to that going out. I'm a yes to finding time for us to integrate. I'm highly concerned about the amount of time that could go into module preparation. And I don't know how to create a certain amount of discipline such that we maximize our work efficiently. I think that it's going to be Google Doc driven, not meeting driven, because meetings are a context that just like, I don't know, it can take a really long time before we know it, especially on stuff like this. So I'd really like to propose that we think about this, but via Google Docs. And frankly, although this might sound extreme, I would, like to do the majority of this on Wednesday based upon the most current expressions of circumstances. And I'd like for us to minimize our expectation of this like highly orchestrated situation where like a slide per person and I say, and then you say, and actually like a little bit more of a skeleton, a little bit more of a framework, and then trust ourselves in the moment to be able to co-lead. Benjamin and I just did a really powerful experiment of this yesterday, and I think we did a phenomenal job, and this is just the beginning. So I'm really inspired by bullet points and outlines that we can discuss in a highly personal and direct way. And I feel like by focusing on developing an outline that's simple, we can do the preparation more efficiently.
Okay. To that end, I would say, reiterating my desire to step in to that kind of work. I mean, I made a 5-page Google Doc yesterday that is not in a structure that is like y'all, like the one that y'all use. Structure is not necessary. Like I could use support in trying to like fit that in a more beautiful way. But I want to say that in terms of the generativity with respect to the curriculum, I do feel like I can hold down like a 0 to 1 on that in a parlance that Christopher, you and I have shared.
Really appreciating that. Great. So my request around that is I would love for you and Sophia to have a specific conversation. So if we're having that conversation, great. And then 2, if you go to membership, the membership page, you can see our 5 principles of all leadership, and you can see the 5 bullet points inside of that. I would love for you to just consider those elements as you're factoring into what you're creating, because I think where we're looking for the structure element, there's a lot of preconceived structure in those 5 different categories of know yourself that could probably create shelves in your brain and in the document for a lot of your flesh of wicked wisdom to be able to weave within.
I'm starting to feel like we're actually getting off course.
Okay. She's made a request to help to steward content. She had told me previously she didn't know where those 5 bullet points were. If she's going to steward content, then I want to share with her the pre-considered structure thus far if we're going to be integrating the content with the existing thought process. And I'm done talking.
My sense is that we're going to want to start the 0 to 1. I feel, Josie, I feel like that wants to happen here. I don't think we want to start with what we've preconceived. I think that was the whole idea of this last conversation.
I have a major distinction, which is that if Josie is going to bring content forward and it's going to be an integration between some of what we thought or something totally new, and she just asked for support with structure, that she can at least use that as a shelf in her brain to support to structure her own thought process, which could potentially be valuable or not.
Sophia, are you advocating for the creative process to be like emergent among the 4? Or I'm just trying to understand your thought there.
It was more of a feeling that we might get caught in the weeds going about it this route, that I feel like this is the time to be slim and be concise and actually determine like what's the experience we want to have on this call. Did we even all agree to move into module Know Yourself? I wasn't even clear on that.
I mean, that is a higher level question, and despite Benjamin's statement, which I think is a very valid statement about creating the space for that to all those pieces to be fully landed down the road, it does actually seem like the appropriate lens by which to look at this. And even if we did 2 modules on it or a supplementary module on hitting piece we didn't hit, my perspective is that lens is appropriate to integrate with a more emergent thing than we would have otherwise done, which is more about them processing their reality and less about us delivering content. So that's my position at this moment. and I don't want to empower Josie because Josie does have the bandwidth and she's asking to be empowered, and asking to be trusted. And I just want her to have, in this last moment, like kind of like on a lob something in her direction that I think would maximally serve her as she's going to that, which are the 5 sub bullet points that have been pre-thought through and how those script this whole thing. Because that's what we kind of articulated here.
My sense, Christopher, is that there's some leadership there's some leadership required from all of us, that this isn't something to just lob out of your leadership.
I'm not lobbing it out. I'm lobbing something in her general direction. So she has a little bit more of my structure because she just asked for support around structure. So I just gave her a lob because she didn't know where to find those principles to support her structure.
My sense is that probably a little bit of due diligence for you to actually just sit with the module. This is what I was going to bring to you the Friday morning we entered into this 3-day portal. Was I really wanted to encourage you to get out of your mind all of the pieces that you're holding around module 5 and start to see if you can feel the framework, because I know it lives inside of you. And that's what's been reflected to you, is that it's actually part of that framework that people have signed up for, that's what this is. And I think that, Josie, I think that you do bring a lot of the yum and like the brilliance and like the stuff that fits into the framework. And so just intuiting and feeling into everyone's best skill set, I feel like, Christopher, it's actually your responsibility to sit with the module. If we're going to go into know yourself in this new context, I will even work with you on that to like help create the skeleton. And in the order, and Benjamin, you're invited into that too, just the skeleton. And then Josie, I feel like then we can hand it over to you to kind of bring in the pieces, because I can see what you've already collected and I know you've got the bandwidth and you're brilliant.
I am happy to produce a draft of a skeleton for sure.
And then save Josie from having to find the pieces and integrate them, because I can see that it really just feels like yours to do.
I'm happy to do that. And my truth is that it's not going to happen today.
Which I think is just all the more reason to say that this week is an open container that we're going to bring in relevant content, but it's not about the content. It's about coming together. It's about being in your leadership. It's completely gripped to this context. And then we move forward into, I would like to propose that we move through into module 3 fully grounded in the full arc of the total course the following Wednesday.
That feels best inside my body too. And I really trust this. And Josie, I acknowledge that you've got bandwidth, and everything you're saying feels really important to me too. And yeah, I feel like part of our leadership is to be adaptable. You know, it's like adapting with the changing times, adapting with what feels relevant right now. And I think that we can have a really potent Wednesday if we then structure ourselves to do, Benjamin, what you're suggesting we can do in that. And that feels most aligned for me.
So then in terms of next step, what I'd like is, like, Christopher, if your bandwidth is really occupied right now, I'm going to double down on Sophia's invitation for you to sort of just like, if that, just lay it all down, like just flush your brain onto paper and let that like genius ride. And I also then am wondering if it's possible to have a conversation, maybe Sophia, Benjamin, and me, and Christopher, you can attend to whatever feels most alive for you, or if y'all are available for this or not, I don't know. But I want to get a better sense of what you're actually envisioning, like what you're actually talking about when you're saying for 2 hours to be in an emergent field with people who are coming to us for answers. And for guidance.
Yeah, I can say in a second, just a vision of a series of questions and prompts, and bringing some content forward and bringing some group dialogues and asking people some really critical questions that they may or may not be asking themselves right now. And then helping them metabolize that in small groups and bringing that back together and having some group share and integrations, and just like really surface that this is a moment in time for all in leadership. And, it's game time, that kind of stuff. And really to get clear on people's unique expression of leadership in this moment of time. So they can be like, great, I'm going to start to organize a community. I'm going to start to activate this. I'm going to become more focused on content. I'm going to start singing songs to people on Zoom and send the Zoom link out and just create it. Like everybody's unique aspects of leadership can be totally unique. And I want to help people to identify that right now.
Yeah. So it sounds like you want people to identify their unique act of leadership from a place that could be totally linked to self-knowledge. In my world, I'm like, there's a contrivance in separating that in my world.
I'm with you, Josie, actually. So I'm not sharing the same perspective.
I'm not saying separate it. I'm
Yeah.
saying let's have an integrous container for it, additional to whatever we do.
Yeah,
on Wednesday.
that feels like
Nice.
a contrivance to have that level of clarity at this moment in time, because this experience could be so powerful that we just like, we're actually, oh, joke's on us. This is experiential. And we're actually moving into an experiential element where we talk about clarity and the expression of leadership. Then we talk about emotional clarity and emotional resilience. We talk about this other thing. Before we know it, we actually, in a really emergent exponential way, hit the main pieces and make out an experiential version of it. And next week could be about really how to be able to focus on integrating other people's perspectives on this topic at this moment in time, and actually just like get through an exponential arc. So again, I can't anticipate what is going to happen next week, nor do I, that does not feel pleasurable in my body whatsoever. But in this moment, all things considered, fully integrated, I feel like a know yourself lens, fully gripped to the current circumstance, focused on practically empowering people to be in their expression of leadership and having the levels of self-awareness required to be able to do that effectively in this moment in time feels totally natural. And if there's some key codes that we miss, then I feel like we can make them up with a fully dedicated module or by integrating those pieces in other spaces. So all that I know is Wednesday, and that's my proposal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go to hell
I
yes
feel-
or coherence, or
Hell yes.
I'll take it.
take it?
I'm yes to moving on. I'll just acknowledge I don't feel totally clear or totally empowered. I think that it would be good for us to prioritize putting some kind of meeting together. I think it would be good for all of us to be there together. I think it would be good for some of us to prepare on the front end. And I want to wait until Wednesday to try to figure this out. So that's, if it's not today, then that's definitely tomorrow. And that feels important to me because our coherence is everything. We can't think that we're going to be able to lead leaders if we ourselves aren't coherent and clear on what we're doing. And this is the module challenge, I would say, for this week. And it's up to us to rise into our capacities for leadership in order to be able to present and create a powerful experience for others.
I'll produce a document outline in the next 24 hours. That gets us to midday to Tuesday.
Great, and then I think it would be good for us to calendar something, and I'll leave that up to probably Christopher and Benjamin, because I think you guys are.
I would highly suggest we focus on document collaboration and Slack integration. I feel like we could communicate the vast majority of the same things we would communicate in the meeting in 15th of the time.
Okay, great, I'm open to that. Yeah.
And then if we prove that that's not effective, then we'll go from there. But let's actually fully exhaust that possibility.
I do also want to offer myself, Sophia, to you to have a meeting, to have like some coherence between us. I think that could be helpful for me if you have the availability for that.
Yeah, I feel great about that.
I feel great about that.
Okay, great.
You too.
All right.
We'll be able to sync up through text.
Can we take a big inhale together as a team? I love each of you. I hope that talking fast doesn't result in a feeling of emotional instability or unnecessary urgency. And I could express my leadership, feel calmer while also being swift. I receive any of those reflections. Moving on. Unless there's any critical integrations needed from Jonas, Andrew, or Robert. No, check.
Feel good about this?
Check, Andrew. Check. Okay. So thank you, team, for producing our kind of PSA opening statement video. I feel really proud of that output. I'm really proud of everybody's active leadership that it took to create the output that we got to. I'm going to produce a broadcast email right now. I would love to circulate it to.
We have our first comments on the video already.
Oh, because it's up.
I think it's a bot.
I think it's about to.
Great. The bots have found our video. So I'm going to write a draft of our broadcast email immediately after this meeting. And we'll ping everybody. We'd love if you take a quick peek at it, see if you have any quick feedback. And then we're immediately going to implement it. Robert's going to go ahead and implement that in MailChimp. We're going to attempt to embed the video into the MailChimp.
It's good to go. Just need the file.
Great. So let's start working on that.
Yeah. So yeah.
Check. And with also a link to YouTube underneath it so people can get to it.
Yeah. And the link to the Facebook post.
Is that happening?
That's gonna happen as soon as we get copy for it.
Okay, great. So check. So I like that that's the videos in plus the link to Facebook and the YouTube. 100% always send test emails just between you and I if you're ever in there.
Yeah.
We never send something until there's full confirmation ready to be sent based upon the reviewing and approval of a test it's reflective that we don't change anything before we send. So do multiple tests until it's polished. And then once there's nothing left to do on a test, we then send it. Cool with that?
Is there a test group created in that?
You just send it to me.
Just see?
It'll just literally put my email address where it says who to send the test to. Okay. I'm gonna get the SMS autoresponder draft written, which I'll circulate. Would love everybody's feedback on that. I imagine for now, it's just gonna be a really short thing that says welcome and like literally like a couple of lines. But at least they'll have confirmation that they've opted into something. Anything you want to say about the web page for this all be going down on?
Yeah, we've got a 1.0
Great.
live.
Oh, is it? Okay, cool. So embeds connected and everything's connected.
Yep.
Great.
This is it?
Yeah, here.
Can you share that?
Yeah, just go to One Nation.
Can I make a request?
Yeah.
Can this be centered? This just feels so dominant and
Yeah.
unnecessarily dominant. And I just imagine it like
Oh, this
slightly
is beautiful.
larger and
I'm gonna
centered.
share this.
Thank you.
Screen here.
Okay, so we'll just keep optimizing that in real time. Cool?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. I have a vision of 4 segments of today's broadcast. Global condition and overwhelmed health systems, anticipated circumstances in the US. Again, neither of these are the purpose is to create fear or panic. It's to give people real information that will help them to realize the significance of preparation vigorously now. That's what I want to position people with. So global condition and overwhelmed health systems, anticipated circumstance in the US, emergency preparation, and social distancing. I feel like that's 4 crystal clear segments. Creates a lot of space for us to weave a lot of other codes inside of those contexts. I would like to co-create an outline with you stewarding it, Robert, but I'm in it as well. And all we're doing is just landing facts or points or links to other things or images. So there's like really beautiful like segments. And then we're just talking about them. And I feel pretty strongly present on each of those 4 elements. Benjamin, I'm curious if you feel strongly present in each of them. I don't feel like we need.
Where does this list live?
Oh, it's in the agenda for today, which is the Monday master. Yeah, great. So I just want to name that. I feel like there could be 1 person, there could be 2 people, there could potentially even be 3 people. And so we should just like really kind of chaotically relate to the topics that we feel like we've got the most amount of passion, interest around. And that we can just have the outline and basically just kind of decide in real time. But I think that 2 is a really strong default. So we always have somebody to play off of. And I think what I noticed, and now I'm just recalibrating this moment based upon blah, blah, blah. When I'm giving a transmission, you are able to be integrating and preparing for something powerful when I feel like a transmission authentically comes to a close, and then vice versa. So in this moment, I'm just remembering actually how important I think two people is,
Yeah.
because there's the commentary, the codes, there's all of that. And what sucks is when a person is like kind of in a transmission, but then lose their train of
Right
thought
on their computer.
and then and then pretends to stay in the transmission
Yeah.
while they're actually figuring out what to say next. And I want to nix that. So we just do full stops when we're complete, and that most likely our fellow host is going to be ready to pick up from that. So my new position that's different than what I said 2 minutes ago is I think that we should always have two people on. Great. Are we a general coherent around this outline for today's segments? Great.
Yes.
And you've got, so now you've got the titles.
Right.
So as we create these outlines, the outline header becomes the title of the go live and the YouTube video, with maybe a date stamp at the beginning or end of it. Probably the I don't know, beginning or end.
And at the time we start.
And then we'll cut the go live and then reactivate another one, and just let people know we'll be back in about 2 minutes with our next section, and then name what that next section is going to be. And then maybe something nice can happen while we're cutting, or maybe nothing can happen because we need to actually formally cut and then reactivate it, go live.
Yeah.
It can't be continuous.
This stays continuous, but the lives are ouch.
Thank you.
So
Great. Are we relatively coherent? I'd like to propose 2 p.m. That's much sooner than I thought based upon my anticipated time for this team meeting. However, that still is 4 hours from now. And we don't have too many hot dependencies that I'm tracking between now and then. So I feel like we could be prepped. And if I can just dive right into what that preparation would entail. All we really need is physical setup of the space. Check. Jonas has to be 100% ready for VJing.
That's literally what I'm practicing right now.
Great. Check. We need to develop a content outline that's really focused between Benjamin, Robert, and myself. Check. We're ready to go live. Check. Intuitively, I feel like 2 to 4 p.m. is this like time that I want to commit to for the next couple of days. Until we potentially augment the amount of transmission time above and beyond that.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that proposal?
I feel good on the
I
time.
love it. I'm excited because it's going to most likely be 2 to 5 very soon.
Yeah, or we could do a 10 to noon and then like a 4 to 6 or something like that.
Also want to name the time difference. So we are broadcasting to the East Coast. So with my fault.
I'm clear. Yep. Clear. Any counter proposals or modifications to that proposal?
I think we should probably do 3 to 4.
Yeah.
We don't need to push it
Great.
with a bunch of content today.
Yeah.
Test run.
Great. Should we mention that in the broadcast email?
Yeah.
Can we commit to that?
Can you give me more information about the broadcast email?
The broadcast email is basically an email that I'm going to draft that says this is what we're focusing on. It's going to have our transmission video embedded into it. It's going to invite them to text opt-in to Rise Above, and it's going to let them know that we're going to be creating content on a daily basis. And the question is just, do we let them know? And our first live broadcast is going to involve multiple segments of content starting at 3 p.m. today.
Okay. And have we been saying we're creating content on a daily basis or content for the show on a daily basis? I just want to know what
We
we're
committed
actually holding
to
ourselves
creating
accountable to.
something every day.
Something every day.
Yeah, which I feel really good about
Could
that.
be a text message, could be a piece of graphic design.
Does that something get texted to them?
Well, yeah, it depends on the nature of it. The text message can involve artifacts that we send, which could be a link, an image, or whatever, and also likely a text message about 20 minutes before we're going to go live to say heads up, we have new content for the day. We're going live. Go to onenation.party/riseabove to watch our videos broadcast.
I just want to point out that I feel like I want to become more clear around what we're actually committing to so that I can help to hold accountability for it. And I think
Okay.
I've been out of the loop on some of these conversations. So I just want to make sure that
Daily
I can help to
transmissions,
hold us.
yes. So what we've committed to and what I feel phenomenal about committing to and what we said, look, this whole thing is going to require at the center of the center of the center is when we get into daily transmissions and not do it because we have the space to, but do it because we've committed to it and use that to force our hand to like get our whole ship tight. So daily transmissions, what a transmission is hasn't been defined.
Okay, great.
And we also realized last night that transmission has two meanings, which is amazing, which is a transmission at an energetic level, as well as like actually broadcast transmission.
Yeah.
So it's like, for you people don't need to know our buzz language to actually understand what that means.
Basically, Sophia, I'm so excited to see what happens in that space at the time. It would be great for you to be there because I feel like your voice is very soon wanting to come through and answer those questions
The
also.
very first thing my friend Kayla said to me, I think there was so much we could have talked about. She's like, why am I not hearing your voice on the Flow Nation platform? She's like,
Wait till you see
I was
how
like, well, actually, interestingly enough, we're almost there.
I'm excited to see it come to life.
Yeah,
Live. Now like it's been polished and tested, and now we're ready to broadcast you in a way that's
Yeah.
look like a movie on the first
Yeah.
go.
And find the content that's fully authentic for you to bring forward.
Yeah.
It's edgy, it's appropriate. I'm
It's-
there.
Yeah.
I think what I'm holding in this moment is more logistical, like thinking about our Swift text platform and how we are going to integrate that
Yeah.
in and what we're actually sending text messages about.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I'm getting
And
my
I do want to get clarity on what we text people. Like if we are going to text people 20 minutes before live, if we're going to be sending things, like I also want to really find that line of delivering information that's powerful, but also empowering people to know where to find information so that we're not overburdening them and so they're not getting constant updates from us. I just want to make sure that we find that that line of appropriateness.
Yeah.
And I think today is very important in terms of the PSA to find the audience for that ASAP on wherever we said we can, on Daniel's channel or something like.
He's in for our promotion. So basically your job today will be to circulate that video and let people know that we're beginning our daily transmissions with a transmission today, not a daily transmissions at 3 p.m., but today we'll have a daily transmission at 3 p.m.
And tune into that website. Like,
Yep, onenation.party/rise above.
So basically, we're gonna go live on phone. I'll film it gimbal style. And we'll put it out.
I don't think I think you're working. You've got music, graphics, images. We need to.
We're not at that capacity yet.
I feel like based upon what I know about the platform, I think a stationary camera with
Yeah.
you being able to layer some music on in real time.
We can't, it can't be a camera, it has to be phones first.
Great.
Okay, it's gonna be, it's gonna be
But this one, I'm challenging you.
it's a huge learning curve for the next 3 hours.
I understand that. And that I think is the only thing that matters for you to do.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
Okay.
You got it? So I see that you are working the
You touch this on
station.
page.
And
This is so meta right now.
just to name this, Jonas, I feel like you are first and foremost, you're managing, what's the Studio 6, is that the name of the platform?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're managing Studio 6.
Yeah.
Everything that happens in Studio 6 is your responsibility. And if we want to be able to bring up images and stuff and you would empower Robert or Andrew to do that for you, then awesome, but it's your responsibility. And then when that's all working properly and you can then take the iPhone off of the tripod and then work it manually, then that's what you can come in to do as a flare on top of everything else being stewarded powerfully.
Yeah.
So that's the vision that I'm holding for your role. Did you hang out or do anything? Okay.
So if someone goes to this webpage at the grade, they'll see
Okay.
a live one.
Yes.
Do you want to integrate, or do you feel like that challenge accepted?
Challenge accepted. I just know we're stripping away many, many beautiful things that are coming down the pipeline in terms of what it's gonna look like when we go live.
Yeah.
With transmission.
Well,
So
we've-
I'm just like trying to integrate how close to that we can get already with what we have.
Great.
Like, is
It's
there-
gonna be cool, whatever it is
Yeah,
today.
yeah, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, is there a way for me to? Yeah.
Yeah, that's up to you.
But I'll definitely need a couple phones, and whichever
Looks
phones
a little
we're
funny. mobile.
Great,
using have to be fully charged.
great.
Fully charged, because this one's running out of battery.
And Andrew is available during broadcast transmission to be a support.
Yeah.
Robert's available.
I'm gonna really quickly integrate something, like, that's what I feel like Sam could be holding.
I understand.
Is like
I understand.
VDJ also.
I understand. I totally understand. If I could wave a magic wand and he was here right now, I would wave that one.
But is there a way to, then, yeah, Andrew or Robert, I'll,
Correct.
yeah.
And again, we're gonna, every day, we can have an exponential feedback loop and improvement in quality. So if you do nothing but have the video playing and give us a little bit of light music underneath, that would be an epic experience for today. So just, I'm asking you to not try to be so creative today that you go beyond your capacity and we have a belly flop. So to layer systematically what you've already verified, you have the capacity to steward responsibly.
Yeah,
Clear?
today will be, we'll already start with
Great.
2 cameras on tripods like this.
Okay.
And I'm just,
That, check. Great. Okay. That's our experiment, and we're going live with our experiment. And it would be responsible for us to probably.
That'd be to see it so it can feel like.
Yeah. So can we commit to running a test at 1:30 for 20 minutes? Are we good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. 1:30, we're all in the studio running a full live test, and then you have a full hour to integrate any lessons learned from that test. We go live at 3 p.m.
Love it. So
Check.
Check.
Great.
check.
Let's just talk real quick about Studio One setup. So, I'm envisioning that this table, that we're sitting on stools at this table. Do you align with that vision, or do you propose a different vision for the set?
I
Which
propose a
chairs?
different vision for the set, but maybe I don't understand. If what we really need is just the surface tables that whoever's speaking is at
Yeah.
a
that's
table,
good. Yeah.
we have other desks in the studio too.
I just don't feel like aesthetically. I feel like this is like complete.
So what this will do is take up any space to like try to make it look like anything nice.
Okay.
It's that there's just not enough space.
And what if we bring this guy over
And it goes up.
and it goes
So
up to right the height?
Anything like visually, it'll imagine it being like, it'll probably just be like a corner of a table. Because I would want you guys not seated like all side by side. But
Okay.
like, so that it's like a corner maybe, or what do you think?
I don't know.
I'll show you the desk that's on the other side. My sense is that it'll be perfect because I don't think you're gonna be like
Oh,
really
this is
filming the
not
desk.
This is.
Is
You know where
it,
you're
so
doing
today,
Jack a little bit?
it's you two today, right?
Oh,
Yes.
Is that what you're
So
looking
far,
for? You're saying?
yeah.
Not Facebook.
Sorry?
Would you
No, Facebook.
like?
No Facebook Live.
We'll probably just run YouTube live for this one.
Okay.
I mean, can we do both at the same time?
Yes.
Same stream?
From here, I can only do one.
Yeah, we'll find a, we might have a way to go.
I
With
may
same
be able to
vibe,
go
too.
live from YouTube to Facebook.
Like, we can,
You can do YouTube and Facebook simultaneously, I believe.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the platform, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so getting back to set, do we need to, are we not making this final decision right now? Because we have to run a couple of set experiments.
I have to see.
Okay, great.
There's no point in trying to even say.
For whatever it's worth, I've had an intuitive sense that this was the table we want to go with, so at least just factor that in. and I trust you'll go from there.
I see what you're seeing, but that's more so when we have this, the set room for the meeting tables set up. This is so big that.
Yeah, but just check this out. I feel like the two hosts are definitely gonna have laptops because we're gonna be looking at outlines, looking at images, looking at stuff. So if you have two people there, one laptop is cocked this way, the other laptop's cocked that way. Maybe there's a couple other things on the table. Before you know it, I think it's gonna feel like we're using the space, using the table. And then the camera's just gonna come in right on us.
And then I could even catch the screens live in
Because screens live, you could drop a little tripod right up in front of somebody to get like a close-up angle, like right on the table itself. You know, use the table as a surface for.
yeah, one of the first moments of, or one of the first lives of the one show that I did last night in the kitchen was the moment that he told that tomorrow might be cool. The first day of quarantine. And I went to the phone and it looked so awesome that the viewer felt like they
Yeah.
went over to look at his phone. So I can make it feel like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's all pretty cool. So anyways, I'll let you guys take it from there. I would love to see us run next year.
Meaning that, sorry, I guess you didn't get the point. Meaning that then we don't have to always put overlays of content and him having to look for the content because you guys are looking for the content and I'm just reading it off the viewer is reading it off the screen.
That's efficient.
Yeah.
No, it's literally so live that we're reading what you want us.
I'm curious what the user experiences of seeing the screen's quality.
That's what I mean. It looked amazing, at least on the phone.
Okay. then
I'd like
that's
to
great.
tear this off as a side note so we can keep moving
Great.
forward with our agenda,
So,
honoring and
great.
acknowledging that Josie's here with us and
Okay,
this isn't as relevant. to
Clear.
her right
So what we're naming is that we are setting up the set. We're setting up a powerful command station for Robert and Andrew. We're gonna reconfigure however the room currently is imagined with desks and with couches. I want total space, just reinvent the space
Yeah.
and then re-land all the pieces like shaking up a snow globe to be perfectly gripped to this reality. So I imagine everyone else is facing this way and the set's facing this way. And so everyone can be in relationship.
If we're gonna do that, we need to set
Camera
the-
spacing this way.
So if the garage is here, then you have the two hosts facing this way.
Yeah.
And we have three stations facing this way.
Yeah.
So I can be talking to Robert, I can be talking to Andrew, I can be talking to you, and everyone's just right there.
As soon as possible, I want to run so that I can move freely with one camera.
If we do that, we need to move the modem. Because we need fast Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah.
And this,
Can we run that today? The cable?
We can just, if.
we could literally just run a cable through the hallway.
That's
for
what I'm
today.
saying,
Let's do
yeah,
it.
because
Yeah, totally.
we need to. have
We just
that
need to
infrastructure.
communicate with Larry that he's not gonna have internet today. I don't know if internet, if his like TV is based on internet or if it's not, but we need to extend the Ethernet. Well, you can just integrate with Larry.
Yeah.
Early on the early side.
Yeah, so let's
And just
do that
see
after
if,
this
if
meeting.
he has a Ethernet extension.
Yeah.
We'll just run it through the hallway today and then deal with it for the blessing hour.
That works.
Great, check.
Cool.
Okay. Okay, that's it for our mission stuff.
Cool.
now.
And
Notice, I'll
we'll
just
get into HQ stuff.
make a note with you when you get time to actually do the reorganization of Studio One, just call me in and I can.
Yeah, let's make it look nice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to debate.
And I've got some ideas, so we'll just talk
Yeah,
about it.
I'm kind of thinking we should maybe just drop the backdrop.
Let's just talk then, when you get to that point.
Okay, I feel like the backdrop just,
Or then the backdrop needs to be like way bigger for
It can be way bigger.
Yeah, we can make it huge.
Make it way
make
bigger.
it way
We
bigger.
have 10 feet of it.
But do we have enough stands to make it feel like?
Worked out.
Yeah.
Great, that'll be part of the setup. Josie, we are now transitioning from mission stuff to HQ house stuff. You're obviously welcome to stick around, but we also want to create a clear off ramp for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm gonna dive into some module work right now.
Okay.
Yeah. And Kai, it's good to see you, little brother.
Do you know have you met Josie? Can you say hi,
Yeah, we
Josie?
sailed together.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Sailing. Yeah, that's right. It's our sailboat.
Blessings on the work today, y'all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.
Love you.
Love you, Josie. We'll see ya.
Love you.
All right.
Ouch. Love you, Josie.
Are you guys with me if I move into HQ? All right,
Nice.
can you explore filling up a propane tank today? We're at 20%. That's one thing we want to have full before the systems go.
Yeah.
That's all of our hot water and all of our cooking heat.
One extra one as well.
No, we're talking about a major propane tank. It'll be
Oh.
6 months supply.
Okay, never
Um,
Oh, yes,
Ouch.
so you're on that?
yes.
Great. Water, can that happen today, Andrew?
Yeah.
Check.
You mean washing the bins and
Watch the bins,
filling,
fill them up.
yeah, filling up, not all of them, because we're saving some for food. Right.
That's between you and her.
Okay.
Whatever ones aren't being saved for food,
Yeah.
those ones fill.
Yeah.
Yep, check. Sweetie, can you please do a financial assessment today?
Yes, yeah, anything that was on my list yesterday that I didn't get to because of how crazy yesterday was, I'm just moving on to my accountability list for today.
Great. And so I would just love for you to call me over once you feel like you've kind of integrated that
Yeah.
whole space. It would be kind of nice, but not critical to have an outline of what we've expended personally gearing up to this moment in time.
Yeah.
Just for context, we've basically spent all of our credit limit on getting us to this point. Didn't really try and integrate with anybody because that wasn't necessary and it was urgent. So just know we put ourselves on the hook for all the food and all the equipment and all the everything. So it'd be nice to actually have that clear reporting and accountability. So financial assessment is both accounting to date, but then also looking at our financial realities, what we
It's
have.
all the things, it's the financial
And the going
report,
forward.
it's the stock moving, it's the,
Yeah.
the call the credit card companies.
And I do have a belief that by doing this for 7 days straight, we will be able to have a substantial audience in place and we can start actually asking for donations as a part of our programming and build the media and build the audience and then use that as our next swoop. And potentially, if we hit some quantum results through that mechanism, achieving our $25,000 fundraising goal and realize that goal is like able to be hit all along in a completely different context. But that's the track. Basically eyeballs, connection, service, value, leadership, financial support, so we can keep providing that for them and other people.
I want to say I'm just high on life right now. How it's like happening so
Great.
quickly in such a like we couldn't have predicted any of this a few days ago.
And yet we're
So
completely
excited.
ready.
And we're so ready.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything happened
Yeah.
perfect.
Thanks, Allie. Woo! Thanks a lot. All right. Robert, you're
Yeah.
integrating with Larry about internet.
Yes, let's get a message sent out to him at the end of this meeting.
Great, check.
Cool.
The other priority for the house is further organization and cleaning, which you're tracking, and we'll keep moving that forward. And then I don't know if this is crazy aspirational, but I would love for myself, my grounding, after we finish our broadcast, to go and plant the garden.
Oh,
But Kai really wants to do that. I'd love for him to have the opportunity to do that.
I'd love to do that
Wait,
too.
Yeah.
when do I have to that's at 1:30.
That's at 1:30, live from 3 to 4.
I'll come grab a moment of you guys filming or getting the garden.
It's gonna be after,
After.
from like 5 to 7.
Blessing hour.
Blessing hour is, we're planting a garden for blessing hour.
I just wonder, I get that it's so fun, but in terms of priorities, it doesn't feel like a higher priority than sanitization and the things that I'm tracking. with
It's
the
only
house.
gonna, it only take 2 people. And I don't feel called to sanitization, so I feel really called to the garden. Plus 2 weeks from now, we're gonna want some leafy greens to start to be sprouted if we can't get leafy greens somewhere else. So I'm really tracking that reality.
Okay.
Cool.
Nice sense.
Garden planting.
Everyone wants to work on the garden.
Oh,
Who doesn't want to work on the garden?
Listen, there's a small area back there. So many people can swing picks and work shovels. I'll just do that all very quickly and very coherent around that. And then everyone can come in and just plant seeds.
Okay.
Which will just take a matter of moments. And I will do seeds in a totally organized and coherent way that we can have a spreadsheet mapping where things are at. And I won't do my typical thing
Yes.
for you.
Wonderful, thank you.
And because I think it's just more better.
Mhm.
More better.
That's all I got. What do you guys got?
Great.
I'm excited.
You're excited?
I'd like to go sense on the amount of time I should devote to intelligence today and how much time I should devote to my technical administration duties.
Yeah, so your intelligence is going to be directly correlated to preparing for the episode.
Okay.
So I think that 90 to 120 is going to be the right amount, and it could be less because we just integrate a lot of what you did yesterday.
Yeah.
So I just need to deal with broadcast email, outline for Academy, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And then right after that, I'm going to be in content prep for today's segments, and I'm just going to work with you on that.
Okay.
Great. So if you just want to stay over here, if you want to just kind of imagine that around 12 o'clock or so, you're in a workflow that's in relationship to my workflow around content preparation.
Okay.
And then I need to integrate with Benjamin after that. He's a pretty sharp guy.
Yeah.
And then I feel like we would be good for a little test run by 1:30.
We also spoke yesterday about instituting a lunch snack and a dinner
Yeah,
at the
I
end of
think
the
we should
day,
talk about that right now.
and then closing the kitchen any other time of the day.
I don't feel like I want to have that conversation right now. I feel like we
Okay.
just covered a lot today. I feel like,
But let's do it tomorrow.
yeah,
Cool.
let's even get let's have a little bit more conversation on that before
Sure.
anything's presented like this is a definitive thing.
So here's what
Not doing that in this moment, just bringing up an
Yep,
opportunity to
which I
co-sense.
appreciate doing.
Yeah.
Here's what I'd like to say right now,
Mhm.
especially to the fruit eaters. Okay, stores could close any day. So I am highly rationing.
He's speaking to you, Jonas.
So
I just didn't know if you knew if you were.
I know.
what we don't want to do is have a bunch of fruit waste. Obviously, we don't want that to happen.
Yeah, let's can we have your attention then?
I want to really ask everyone to take every other person in consideration and every other person experience over the next week into consideration. After a week, the fruit thing basically a moot point anyways. But in this week, it's not a moot point. And a choice to have 2 pieces of fruit or 3 pieces of fruit today means that you or somebody else doesn't have any today and need tomorrow. So just really feel that highest level of integrity. How can you have a half of a piece of fruit, or how can we just take all the bananas and just cut them all up into 3 pieces and throw them in the freezer? So you just go and get like a little banana popsicle, get your little quarter and have it and call that good for the day. These are what I'm asking for because we're going to regret it if we just blow it all out in 2 or 3 days.
I am about to process the fruit that is in the fridge, and I did buy a whole bunch of bananas solely for the purpose of freezing them so
Great.
people can still have them in their smoothies.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think freezing, I don't know if apples freeze, if we want.
No, that freeze.
So it is worth mentioning that we have a bunch of oranges, and it's also great to be getting vitamin C right now, and some of the oranges have actually spoiled because they haven't
Great.
gotten clean,
I'll
so
go with an orange.
I would say emphasis on the oranges right now.
Yeah.
The apples have a little bit more resiliency, so have an apple if you want an apple, but don't also feel like you can't have an apple, I want to like us to all really find that fine balance of, like you said, have your fruit, but don't take.
But don't eat it
away
too.
what you need.
Yeah, this is really time to learn the sufficiency codes
Big time.
and like what do we actually need?
And as a point of rationing, after we get through the fruit, we have 3 cans of dried apples.
Yeah, we
that get to enjoy.
Hey.
Yeah, you did.
Mm.
You're welcome, guys. You're gonna thank me later.
Oh,
I think that with the bananas, what would be best is actually just little dice pieces.
Yeah.
I don't think dropping a banana in a smoothie right now is the thing. Like there's a moment in time where going in and be able to have a piece of dried fruit or frozen fruit or a grape is going to be so pleasurable in the worst case scenarios that if we consume that all right now, like I'm just telling you guys, that's not the cool thing to do.
I did have the image of like only having like Mormon ration food at a certain point.
Yeah,
And
we-
like,
we're gonna test that.
yeah,
I'm excited
No,
for that.
and I'm trying to prepare us at this
Yeah.
point in time so that in that moment, we all still have 2 frozen grapes today and a piece of a frozen banana, and I am not kidding.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's what like how bleak it felt looking at like, oh, if we blow through all of this
Yeah.
and we're just eating like canned oats for a few weeks.
Totally.
Like
You're gonna, if you
that's like
disproportionate
being
all the
on the
front good stuff,
Matrix.
yeah,
ship and eating the Wheaties. you know?
totally.
But we have cinnamon, we could add cinnamon to the oats.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got
but marginally
mushrooms.
better
We could
than-
always add
than
mushrooms.
I think my point's been made, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think
I
mushrooms
would love
would make
to,
it a little
as
bit
soon as
bad,
possible,
but
maybe make it for
maybe
myself,
for you
probably,
it's
but
good, but
if we
maybe
want
not
to
for us.
process, like, I just want to like write for myself what I'm allowed, like what I have for the day.
What do they call it? Like mushroom
Otherwise-
smoothies?
Pretty much, dude.
That is pretty much what Robert
Actually, when
does.
I
I'm
do
doing
that every
it's-
day.
It's really feels like
Have it every day?
fuel for the work,
What?
if I have something to snack on, so, but I'm really gotta be careful.
I'm like 90% mushroom, 10% smoothie
Yeah.
at this point.
And a lot of our desires that we think we need to eat is in our brain. It's not real. It's
Yeah.
habituated. And now is the time for every one of us to break our neural networks and recalibrate them. Okay, we all have that capacity. Break habituated actions, find the deepest amount of rigor, sufficiency, and individual integrity and sovereignty from your past, and step into a new, truer reality than ever before.
I also have some good news on that front. As per Jess's journey out into the Matrix last night, we now have 15 green bars, no deli.
And they've been labeled.
Those are the
Yes.
champagne bottles.
They've been labeled, everybody has,
2 personal ones. One is in the
One.
drawer, one is in the freezer, and we have 3 for everybody.
and I already ate my first one.
I have a couple.
Don't come to me when you want a green bar. It's weak for
But
them.
I'd like to just
They
probably
happen
close our
to-
meeting first.
Did you see, but if, once the meeting's closed, I'm walking away. Do you have something?
Too
you wanna add?
bad you only
I
have
have
2
one.
more.
Hit it.
Do we want to do a watch party on Facebook from the One Nation page?
I think so. That, whatever, you are on promotion.
Okay.
I trust you.
Yeah.
Rock it out. We're all committing to 3:00, so we can do a Facebook event that circulates a watch party, like whatever we want to do, as long as it's executed well. We're going live at 3 p.m.
Cool. Let's do it.
Great. You?
No, I feel complete.
Okay, great. Together we rise above again.
Yeah.
It seems appropriate.
Together we
Again?
rise above.
There we go. Get on up here, bud. You gonna stand on the, you stand on the table? Here, put your hand in.
Aw,
Can you-
yeah.
It's so beautiful.
you say
Look at that.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Together we rise above. Woo! She looked you.
You did the thing. All right, fam. Now closing live video. Thank you, all 0 people who watched this. And
Zero's,
It's so
zero's
funny,
pretty close to infinity.
it's so funny how like,
basically the side.
But it stays live, right? Or it stays.
It's yeah. This is now a piece of content that is
Whoa.
on our page.
Robert,
Yes.
I'm gonna send you something.
Okay.
I need your support in setting up our Zoom to go into the live stream.
Yes.